I stepped off the red-eye flight from San Francisco, exhausted but relieved to be home. The familiar humidity of Atlanta hit me as soon as I walked out of the terminal. Another successful deal closed, another week away from home. That's the life of a tech executive. Constant travel, endless meetings, and the persistent ping of emails. But tonight felt different. Maybe it was the way Sarah's texts had seemed more eager than usual. Or maybe it was just my imagination playing tricks after too many hours in airport lounges. I pulled into our driveway in Buckhead, where our Tudor-style home stood illuminated by soft landscape lighting. Sarah was waiting at the door, her silhouette framed by the warm glow from inside. Something about her seemed different, more vibrant, more alive. She practically bounced down the steps to meet me, her honey blonde hair catching the porch light. "Mike, I'm so glad you're home," she whispered, wrapping her arms around me. I breathed in her familiar vanilla perfume, the same one she'd worn since we met at Georgia Tech 10 years ago. But there was something else, something in her eyes that made me pause. "I have news," she said, her voice trembling with excitement. I managed a tired smile, still fighting the fog of jet lag. "Come inside first," she insisted, pulling me by the hand. Our living room was immaculate, as always, Sarah's touch evident in every carefully chosen piece of decor. "Sit down," she said, practically pushing me onto our leather sofa. I sank into the cushions, watching as she perched on the edge of the coffee table in front of me. Her hands were clasped tightly in her lap, knuckles almost white with tension. "Mike," she began, then stopped, taking a deep breath. "I'm pregnant." The words hung in the air between us. I blinked, trying to process what she'd just said. "And," she continued, her smile growing wider, "it's twins." My mind went blank for a moment, then kicked into overdrive. Twins. The word echoed in my head like a distant bell. I forced my face into what I hoped was an appropriate expression of joy. That's amazing, honey," I managed, reaching for her hands. She threw herself into my arms, crying happy tears. "I've been dying to tell you all week," she said between sniffles. I held her, my mind racing with calculations I didn't want to make. 3 months. I'd been in Seattle for 2 weeks 3 months ago. The timing didn't work, but I pushed that thought away, buried it deep where it couldn't show on my face. "Tommy's going to be so excited," Sarah was saying, wiping her eyes. "Our son. At least, I'd always thought he was our son. Is he still up?" I asked, glancing at my watch. "No, he crashed about an hour ago," Sarah replied. "But he made me promise to wake him when you got home." I shook my head. "Let him sleep. I'll see him in the morning." Sarah nodded, then jumped up suddenly. "Oh, I almost forgot. I've already started planning the baby shower." She rushed to grab her iPad from the side table. "I'm thinking we should combine it with a gender reveal party. Everyone's doing them now, and with twins, it'll be twice as exciting." I watched as she scrolled through Pinterest boards, showing me elaborate party setups, blue and pink decorations, clever reveal mechanisms, guest games and prizes. My wife's enthusiasm was infectious, or it would have been, if not for the gnawing feeling in my gut. "Whatever you want, honey," I said, forcing another smile. "Steve and Lauren next door just did the most amazing gender reveal," she continued. "Steve actually helped me with some ideas already. Steve Thompson, our neighbor." The name hit me like a punch to the stomach. "That's nice of him," I managed. Sarah didn't seem to notice my hesitation. She was too busy showing me more party ideas. "He's been so helpful lately," she went on, "especially when you're away on business." "I bet he has," I thought, but I just nodded, letting her continue with her excited planning. Finally, I pleaded exhaustion and headed upstairs. Sarah followed, still chattering about party details. I stopped at Tommy's room, pushing the door open quietly. He was sprawled across his bed, one arm hanging off the side. 6 years old, with Sarah's blonde hair and whose eyes? I'd always assumed they were mine, just a lighter shade of brown. But now, I tucked his arm back onto the bed, pulling his Marvel Comics blanket up to his shoulders. He stirred slightly, but didn't wake. In our bedroom, Sarah was already changing for bed. I watched her move around the room, noting how she seemed to glow. Was it really just pregnancy? Or was it something else? Someone else? I grabbed my laptop bag and headed to my home office. Just need to check one email. I called over my shoulder. Sarah made a disapproving noise, but didn't protest. She was used to my late-night work habits. In my office, I closed the door and opened my laptop. But instead of checking emails, I pulled up a folder I'd created months ago. Encrypted, named innocuously, Q4 projections. Inside were screenshots of text messages, security camera footage from our home, credit card statements, bank records, all carefully cataloged and dated. I'd started collecting evidence 3 months ago, when the first doubts had crept in, when I'd noticed Sarah's subtle changes, the way she dressed differently when I was away, the unexplained charges at restaurants I'd never been to, the way Steve always seemed to be around, offering to help with yard work or home repairs. I clicked through the files, each one adding weight to my suspicions. There was Sarah, coming home late on nights I was away. Steve's car, parked down the street instead of in his own driveway. Text messages that were just a little too friendly, a little too familiar. I closed the laptop, feeling sick. The twins' announce. Men had just confirmed what I'd feared, but I couldn't confront them. Not yet. I needed more proof, more evidence, and I needed to protect myself. I pulled out my phone and typed a message to my private investigator. Need to accelerate timeline. New development. The response came quickly. Meeting tomorrow? Usual place. I confirmed and deleted the conversation. Then I headed back to our bedroom. Sarah was already asleep, curled on her side of the bed. I lay down beside her, keeping to my edge of the mattress. Sleep didn't come easily that night. My mind kept spinning with possibilities and plans. The next morning, I woke early and kissed Sarah goodbye. Another meeting? She asked sleepily. Yet breakfast with investors, I lied. She smiled and rolled over, going back to sleep. I drove downtown, parking in the usual spot behind the diner. James, my PI, was already there, nursing a coffee. Congratulations, he said as I sat down. You heard? He nodded, sliding a folder across the table. Sarah posted it on Instagram last night. Of course she had. I opened the folder, scanning the new photos and reports. The timing works out, James said quietly, for the twins to be his. I nodded, my suspicions confirmed. What about Tommy? James hesitated, then pulled out another document. I can arrange for DNA testing. Discreet, but it'll take time. Do it, I said, not letting myself think too hard about the implications. And I want everything documented. Every meeting, every text, every phone call. James nodded, making notes. What about your assets? I've been working on that too. Meeting with my lawyer this afternoon. Good, James said, because if what we suspect is true, I know. I cut him off. I didn't need to hear it out loud. Not yet. Over the next few weeks, I watched my wife plan her perfect party. Watched her grow more excited as the pregnancy progressed. Watched her spend more and more time with Steve. He's been so amazing, she'd tell me. Lauren's lucky to have such a thoughtful husband. The irony made me want to laugh. Or scream. But I kept quiet. Played my part. The devoted husband. The excited father-to-be. All while gathering evidence. Protecting assets. Planning my exit strategy. The DNA results for Tommy came back first. I was in San Francisco when James called. Are you sitting down? I didn't need to hear more. The results confirmed what I'd started to suspect. Tommy wasn't mine. Never had been. I sat in my hotel room that night, staring at the city lights, thinking about the little boy who called me daddy, who ran to me when I came home from trips, who wasn't my son, The rage I'd been suppressing started to build, but I couldn't let it out. Not yet. There would be time for that later, when everything was in place, when I could make them pay. All of them. The weeks turned into months. Sarah's belly grew. The party plans became more elaborate. Steve was there almost every day now, helping with preparations. His wife Lauren seemed oblivious. Or maybe she was just better at pretending than I was. I threw myself into work, took more trips than necessary, built my case, moved money, created new accounts, set up a new life, piece by piece, all while smiling, nodding, playing along. The party was set for a Saturday in June. Sarah had ordered custom decorations, hired caterers, invited half of Atlanta, it seemed. I watched her fuss over every detail, watched Steve help her hang banners, watched them share secret smiles when they thought no one was looking. And I waited. The night before the party, I sat in my office one last time, reviewing everything, making sure every detail was perfect, every piece of evidence in place, every account secured, every escape route planned. Tomorrow, their perfect world would shatter, and I would be ready, ready to watch it all burn, ready to walk away from the lies, ready to start over. But first, I had a party to attend, a gender reveal party, where I would reveal so much more than just the baby's gender. I closed my laptop and went to bed. Tomorrow would change everything, and I couldn't wait. The morning of the party dawned bright and clear. Perfect weather for destroying lives. I watched from our bedroom window as the party planners arrived, setting up tables and chairs in our backyard, hanging strings of lights between the oak trees. Sarah was already downstairs, directing everything with military precision. Her baby shower dress was laid out on our bed, pale blue and flowing. Expensive. I wondered if Steve had helped her pick it out. Tommy burst into our room, already dressed in his big brother t-shirt. "Dad, come see all the balloons." I followed him downstairs, each step feeling heavier than the last. The caterers were setting up in the kitchen. Sarah was talking to the photographer. Steve and Lauren were already there, helping with decorations. I watched Steve's hand brush Sarah's back as he passed. Saw the quick glance they shared. Lauren didn't notice. She was too busy arranging gift tables. "Mike, can you help Steve with the sound system?" Sarah called out. "Of course. Why not spend my last morning in this house helping my wife's lover set up speakers?" I smiled and nodded. "Sure thing, honey." Steve and I worked in silence, testing microphones, adjusting volumes, each of us playing our assigned roles. The perfect neighbor, the trusting husband. What a joke. By noon, the backyard was transformed. Blue and pink everywhere. Balloons, streamers, flowers. A stage had been set up near the pool. That's where Sarah would make her announcement, where the big reveal would happen, but not the one she was planning. Guests started arriving at 2. Friends from Sarah's yoga studio, my colleagues from the tech firm, neighbors we'd known for years. All of them smiling, congratulating us, none of them knowing what was coming. I played my part perfectly, shaking hands, accepting congratulations, laughing at jokes about sleepless nights ahead. Sarah was in her element, glowing in her new dress, moving from group to group, the perfect hostess, the excited mother-to-be. Steve stayed close to her, too close, always there with a drink, a plate of food, a steadying hand. His wife Lauren chatted with other guests, completely unaware, or maybe just unwilling to see. Tommy ran around with the other kids, playing games, eating too much cake, still innocent, still unaware that his world was about to change. At 4 o'clock, Sarah called everyone to gather around the stage. "It's time," she announced, her voice trembling with excitement. The crowd moved forward. Phones came out, ready to capture the moment. I stood at the back, watching, waiting. Sarah took the microphone. "Thank you all for coming today," she began. "Mike and I are so blessed to have such amazing friends and family." I tuned out her speech, focused instead on the gift box in my hands. Beautiful wrapping paper. Perfect bow. A Trojan horse of destruction. And before we reveal the genders, Sarah was saying, my wonderful husband has a surprise for me. Right on cue. Just as we'd planned. But not the surprise she was expecting. I walked to the stage, climbed the steps, stood beside her. The crowd watched expectantly. Phones recording. Smiles everywhere. Sarah, I said, taking the microphone. You're right. I do have a surprise. I handed her the box. Watched her face light up. Saw Steve shift uncomfortably in the front row. Sarah untied the bow carefully, saving it like she always did. The wrapping paper came off next, revealing a plain white box. She lifted the lid. Her smile froze. The color drained from her face. Mike, she whispered. But I was already taking the microphone back. Why don't you share with everyone what's in the box, Sarah? Her hands were shaking now, holding the divorce papers, the DNA test results, the photographs. The crowd murmured, confused, concerned. Or should I? I continued. Should I tell them about the lies, the betrayal, the years of deception? Sarah tried to grab the microphone. I stepped away. Mike, please, she begged. But I wasn't stopping now. Let me tell you a story, I said to the crowd. A story about a man who trusted his wife, who worked hard to give her everything she wanted, while she was giving everything to someone else. Gasps from the audience. Phones still recording. Steve trying to slip away unnoticed. Stay right there, Steve, I called out. You're a big part of this story. Lauren's head snapped toward her husband, understanding beginning to dawn. These twins, I continued, they're not mine, just like Tommy was never mine. More gasps. Someone started crying. Tomied okayed up from his game, confused. The DNA tests are all there, I said, gesturing to the box, along with the videos, the text messages, the proof of every lie, every betrayal. Sarah was sobbing now, the papers scattered at her feet. Steve stood frozen, Lauren staring at him in horror. So yes, this is a reveal party, I said, just not the kind you were expecting. I turned to Sarah. The divorce papers are filed. My lawyers will be in touch. The house is already sold. Then to Steve. Congratulations on the twins. I'm sure you and Sarah will be very happy. Once the divorces are final. Lauren let out a choked sob, turned, and ran toward the house. The crowd was dead silent now. Watching, recording. I stepped off the stage, walked through the stunned guests, past the blue and pink decorations, past the cake no one would eat, past Tommy, who was being held by his grandmother, looking confused and scared. My heart broke for him, but he wasn't mine to comfort. Had never been. I reached my car, got in, started the engine. In the rearview mirror, I could see chaos erupting. Sarah crying on the stage, Steve being confronted by friends, guests hurrying to leave. A perfect party destroyed, just like they had destroyed our marriage. I pulled out of the driveway, away from the house I'd called home, away from the life I'd thought was real. My phone started buzzing. Messages, calls. I turned it off. I didn't need to hear their excuses, their explanations, their lies. I had a new life waiting, a new house on the coast, new accounts they couldn't touch, a fresh start. As I hit the highway, I felt lighter, free. The truth had finally been told. The masks had fallen, and I was done pretending. Let them deal with the aftermath. Let them try to explain to everyone. Let them face the consequences. I had my revenge, and it was sweeter than any gender reveal could ever be. The sun was setting as I drove east, toward the coast, toward my new life. Behind me, their perfect world was burning, and I didn't look back, not even once, because sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing the truth. It's walking away and never looking back, letting them live with what they've done, letting them face the music, while you drive off into the sunset. free at last. The legal proceedings began 2 weeks after the party, just as I had planned, just as I had prepared for. My lawyer was ready with everything. Every piece of evidence carefully documented, every asset protected, every move calculated. I watched from my new beach house as the story exploded on social media. Someone had posted videos from the party. They went viral within hours. The perfect gender reveal gone wrong. The ultimate revenge story. Sarah tried to call, texted, emailed, begged for a chance to explain. I didn't respond. Let her talk to my lawyers instead. Steve's wife, Lauren, filed for divorce the next day. Took everything he had. The house, the cars, his reputation in our old neighborhood. Karma's a funny thing. Sarah and Steve were left with nothing but each other. And 3 children to support. The twins were born in September. I heard about it through my lawyer. 2 boys. I felt nothing when I got the news. They weren't mine. Never had been. Tommy started therapy. His grandmother kept me updated, even though she didn't have to. He was struggling to understand why Dad wasn't coming home, why everyone was so angry, why his whole world had changed. I sent him birthday cards, Christmas presents, but I couldn't be his father anymore. The truth had changed everything. The divorce proceedings were quick. My preparation paid off. Sarah's lawyers couldn't touch my assets, couldn't find the accounts I'd hidden, couldn't break the prenup I'd had modified. She got nothing, just like she deserved. Steve wasn't doing much better. Lauren's divorce settlement had cleaned him out. He had to sell his consulting firm, move to a smaller house, start over, with Sarah and 3 kids. I heard they fought constantly now, about money, about the children, about whose fault it all was. Their perfect affair had turned into a perfect nightmare. Meanwhile, I rebuilt my life. My new house became my sanctuary. Floor-to-ceiling windows facing the ocean. The sound of waves washing away the past. I threw myself into work, expanded my tech company, made more money than ever. Success truly is the best revenge. 6 months after the party, I met Claire at a tech conference in Seattle. She ran her own AI startup. Brilliant, beautiful, and most importantly, honest. We took things slow. I told her everything. About Sarah, about the betrayal, about my revenge. She understood, had been through something similar herself. We bonded over our shared pain and our determination to move forward. A year after the party, I heard Sarah and Steve had moved to some small town in Tennessee. Couldn't afford Atlanta anymore. Couldn't face the whispers, the stares, the judgment. Their story had become a cautionary tale about infidelity, about consequences, about karma. Tommy started calling Steve Dad. That hurt more than I expected, but it was better this way. Cleaner. No more lies. No more pretending. Claire moved in with me after 18 months, brought life back into my house. Laughter, joy, trust. We got married on the beach behind our house. Small ceremony, just close friends. People who had stood by me through everything. Sarah sent a letter when she heard about the wedding, apologizing again, asking for forgiveness. I threw it away unopened. Some betrayals can't be forgiven. Some wounds don't heal. You just learn to live with the scars. 3 years after that fateful party, I ran into Lauren at a coffee shop in Atlanta. I was there for a business meeting. She looked good, happy, had remarried, to a doctor who treated her like gold. We talked briefly about the past, about healing, about moving on. She told me Sarah and Steve were divorced. Couldn't make it work. The weight of their lies had crushed them, just like I knew it would. Tommy was 13 now, growing up fast, looking more like Steve every day, which made it easier somehow to let go, to move forward. Claire and I had our own child now, a daughter, beautiful and pure, built on truth and trust, not lies and betrayal. Sometimes at night, I still think about that party, the looks on their faces, the moment everything fell apart. But it doesn't hurt anymore. Doesn't make me angry. It just reminds me that sometimes the best things in life come after the worst things fall apart. I built a new life from the ashes of their betrayal. A better life. An honest life. And that's the greatest revenge of all. Not the public humiliation. Not the financial ruin. But the fact that I survived. Thrived. While they destroyed themselves. With their own lies. Their own choices. Their own betrayal. Life is a way of coming full circle. Of balancing the scales. Of making things right. Even if it takes time. Even if it hurts along the way. And as I sit here now, watching the sunset over the ocean, my wife beside me, our daughter playing in the sand, I know I made the right choice. To expose the truth. To walk away. To start over. Because sometimes, the end of one story is just the beginning of a better one. And